Arthur Collins was a true pioneer and prophet. His success as an entrepreneur was the stimulus for superior radio communications for the United States and many other countries throughout the world. At age 9, when all other young boys were playing sandlot ball and dreaming of their futures, Arthur Collins was creating the future, not only for himself, but also for the world. The year was 1918, the dawn of the radio age, and Arthur Collins was at the forefront. He and a friend built their own crystal radio receivers around Quaker Oats oatmeal boxes, wound with copper wire and pieces of galena crystal. His parents were very supportive of his endeavors and provided the funding for whatever experimental equipment he imagined. In 1923, at the age of 14, the Federal Radio Commission granted Collins his amateur license. By the end of 1931, he began manufacturing amateur radio transmitters to order in a shop he had set up in the basement of his home. Years later, he would tell Forbes magazine, quote, "I picked what I was interested in and looked for a way to make a living," end quote. The Collins Radio Company was born. Following the birth of the company that would certainly change the face of worldwide communications for many generations to come, in 1933, the 115-man bird expedition to the Antarctic chose Collins radio equipment to keep in touch with the rest of the world. On February 3rd of 1934, Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd made his first formal broadcast from the Antarctic continent, some 10,000 miles away. America received the broadcast clearly. Suffice it to say, the outstanding performance of the Collins equipment produced a boom in orders for equipment from amateur and commercial buyers worldwide.
Whenever we would go on a trip and interface with either the manufacturing industry part of our avionics products or the airline users of it, whenever the name Collins came up, they were always impressed with it. The reputation was there, and so in the industry, by the community that used his products, and by general people that knew about Arthur. So
Collins worked tirelessly with his engineering staff, inventing, supporting, advising, and encouraging. Collins' experimentation with satellites led to the first communication via man-made satellite and fueled his interest in the space program. Collins Radio provided much of the communication systems aboard NASA space flights. All video, voice, and data from the first moon landing was transmitted with Collins radio equipment. Because of Collins radio communications, the world was able to watch and listen to Neil Armstrong's famous words, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Collins had countless role models who assisted him in developing his genius. He never lost sight of such encouragement, and as a manager, he fostered a positive environment for his own engineers to be creative and innovative. He expected them to be motivated and not to accept the conventional, but to push technology forward. Subsequently, they were able to come up with solutions and innovations that other companies were unable to match. Collins was an inspiration to employees. Although he was demanding, he never asked more of his employees than he was willing to give of himself.
It was very pleasant to work for Arthur because he was so technically stimulating that I think that drew people here. Arthur, on a human relationship standpoint, was a very humble and kind person. And on a technical scale, he was a very demanding person, and as a result of that, I think he had visions of what the population needed in 10, 20, 30 years out, and he also had a grasp on where the technology was going. And so he was a genius in creating new products to relate to the demands of society as things evolved. I think that kind of characterizes him.
He did not consider himself to be a great man and was not flattered by praise. He avoided rather than sought personal publicity. His son Michael once stated, ironically, for a renowned inventor of communications system, my dad was fundamentally a quiet and shy person. One extended an invitation to appear with Walter Cronkite to watch and provide the commentary for the first moon landing. He politely declined, opting instead to watch the marvel at home with his wife and young children. Arthur Collins personified the best of the American free enterprise system. The success of his company derived from his own personality and drive. The creation of jobs will stand as one of Arthur Collins' greatest contributions to the community. He created a successful company during the Depression that today is known as a giant in the communications world, Rockwell Collins. In the early years, Collins Radio Company provided the fuel for the Cedar Rapids economy, and even that of the state, with employment hitting 15,000 at times. Today, Rockwell Collins is the largest for-profit employer in the community. Over the years, he recruited highly skilled, talented engineers and scientists to the community, a legacy that continues today.
Number one, he was a genius, and he had that reputation throughout the industry. The other thing he worked hard at is making sure we had an adequate supply of good technical people. He was completely involved in the growth of his company. He was proud to have his name on that company, and he worked hard at it.
He never ceased working at various kinds of research and often labored day and night in inventing, developing, and perfecting new and more reliable communications equipment. Arthur Collins was often referred to as a genius. Friends and acquaintances also described him as a pioneer, an innovator, a great man. Collins was a man who literally made history. In remembering also, the founder of Texas Instruments Corporation said, "The man was brilliant and a good manager. He left behind him a reputation for integrity and goodwill." That was the essence of the man.